to the Veterinary Financial Podcast, where we discuss financial freedom and professional success. I'm Meredith Jones, a veterinarian and financial planner for vets.
And I am Joe Warner, also a financial planner for vets. It's right after the first of the year, and what better time to talk about New Year's resolutions? A lot of people think that they can be corny or anything like that, but going into New Year is a good time to reset or even make small adjustments that could have big impacts down the road. We've all had new goals at some point, and veterinarians are busy enough as it is, and so you don't need to be worried about doing more. So when you think about new goals and things like that in the new year, they can be about removing friction. So having less financial stress or less guilt around spending or just having more clarity in general. When your finances are organized and intentional, everything else just feels a little bit lighter. So today, we are going to walk through 5 practical ways that veterinarians can take control of their finances this year without needing to overhaul your entire life.
Okay, I'm going to get started with number 1, create a budget or cash flow plan. If anybody out there has heard one of my webinars, I often will call a budget a cash flow plan because a lot of people are kind of put off by the word budgeting and think, okay, it's boring. Somebody's going to try to restrict me, versus a cash flow plan is like, okay, this is more of an abundance mindset. And a budget or cash flow plan is the foundation of a financial plan, because if you don't know how much money you have to work with to put toward various financial goals, then it's hard to know what your next steps are going to look like. A lot of vets have an irregular income and really need to do specific things like, for example, connect your accounts to a budgeting app like Monarch Money is the one that we use with our clients. Once you do that, it's like a lot of things are automated for you. You can have your expenses automatically categorized. You can see how much do you make per month or per quarter and figure out, okay, how much do I actually have to work with to put toward various financial goals?
Yeah, I love that. And I love thinking about it as a way that's not necessarily restrictive or holding you back from things, but it's accounting for things that are important to you and that you want to make sure are in the budget. And so really it's more of a freeing thing than a restrictive thing.
Yeah. And I always say, I mean, if you love lattes, let's have a latte budget. I have clients who either want to own a horse or already own horses, and there's a horse budget. And so whatever is important to you, I think your cash flow plan should reflect what you value.
The second one would be to optimize your student loan plan. When you think about financial goals, especially as a veterinarian, I think most veterinarians have student loans. And so it's important to think about that plan, and what better time to get a plan in place or set goals for that than right now. Specifically with veterinarians, there's some unique challenges of having high loan balances relative to income and just the emotional weight that can come with that. And many, advisors and folks don't understand fully all of the different nuances when you're on an income-driven repayment plan, whether that's save, IBR, pay, all the different options that are currently available, as well as all of the rules that are frequently changing around those also. And so when we talk about optimizing your student loan plan, that could even apply if maybe you are already on IBR and you know that that's a good plan for you, but there could be ways to optimize, when you recertify or recalculate your income, and things that we can do around that to really get your payment to be the most beneficial for you. Because, when you're going for forgiveness, paying the minimum payment on that is going to be the way to optimize that. And so how can we get that payment as low as possible, even though you may already be on the right plan?
Yeah, absolutely. And just want to revisit a few things with student loans, because a lot of people have not had to pay as close attention to their student loans for the past few years because there was the COVID pause, and then a lot of people enrolled in Save. It's a very popular plan. So a lot of people at this point in early 2026, as we're recording this, a lot of folks are revisiting their overall strategy and wanting to know, okay, does forgiveness still make sense for me? Would I still reach forgiveness? Because some people are having to, for example, switch to the old IBR plan, and depending on how far they are into their repayment timeline, they may or may not reach forgiveness. So there's a lot of things to think about with that, and to make sure that as you're choosing your strategy, you can be confident about that. Like, okay, I'm going to reach forgiveness, so I'm going to continue down that path. Or I'm not going to reach forgiveness, and what does that mean for me? Does that mean I'm going to continue making minimum payments, or does that mean I'm going to pay more toward my loans, depending on where someone is in their financial journey? And if you're on the SAVE plan, know what the next best plan is going to be for you. So a couple of episodes to refer back to that we've done recently are episodes 73 and 77. In those, we talk about planning ahead for the fact that most veterinarians are going to have a higher student loan payment than what they have had in the past few years. Then also thinking about potentially scheduling a student loan consult. The other thing that I think about is, like you said, Joe, optimizing the plan, even if you're already on the right plan, because, and I actually met with someone earlier today who, for example, and this can happen in early career, and this can also happen when somebody is shifting from perhaps a lower paying job to a higher paying job. Maybe they're moving from GP to ER, or maybe they did an internship this year and just finished that this year, but then next year they're going to have a higher income. And so you can actually think about that from a strategy perspective of potentially filing an extension on your taxes. If you could use your previous year's tax return, maybe it makes sense to file an extension for the next tax season, so that when you go to recertify your income for student loan purposes, you could use that previous year's tax return. So there are strategies to think about like that. And then also considerations for married folks. So Joe, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. When you have a spouse and you're married, that will affect different things like how you file your taxes. And how you file your taxes can have a significant impact on your student loan repayment plan, just based on having a different payment. And so there's different things that go into that, like your family size, or, married filing joint versus married filing separate. And really understanding which one of those, when talking about married filing separate versus married filing joint, makes the most sense for you, could be a really good way to optimize your plan, because that could potentially save you hundreds of dollars a month in just your student loan payment by figuring out how to do that correctly.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what we do for folks, is help them figure out, okay, what can I do to save the most money on my student loans? And another thing that I'm seeing a lot of veterinarians revisiting is trying to get their adjusted gross income as low as possible, because adjusted gross income is what they use to calculate the student loan payment. If you're not maxing out your 401k, but you have the capacity to max out your 401k, for example, or if you're not maxing out your health savings account, but you have the capacity to do that, those would be examples of being able to reduce your adjusted gross income, which would also reduce future student loan payments. So lots of ways we can optimize there. And that brings us to number 3, since I just talked about retirement contributions. Number 3 is increase your retirement contributions. There's a lot of in between there, right? Like I talked about if you can afford to max out your 401k, but also there are folks who maybe they can't max out their 401k right now, but they could afford to contribute more than the 3% or 5% that they're doing right now. So the idea is to increase over time the amount of money you're contributing to retirement, so that you can continue to live the same lifestyle that you're living now when you're no longer working. Some folks, if they don't save enough for retirement, aren't going to be able to do that. And most of the veterinarians we talk to, because we talk to often folks who are in early to mid-career, they've got a long time to continue to save for retirement. And so if you're listening out there and you feel like you're behind, it is not too late to increase your retirement contributions. You've got a long time to make a really big impact over the course of your life.
Yeah, definitely. When we talk about time and retirement, time is your absolute best friend. And so it's definitely not something to sleep on when you are looking at if you're able to increase your retirement contributions, because obviously there are a lot of benefits, like Meredith had mentioned, about maybe even getting a lower student loan payment because you're contributing more to your retirement, but also just having more time for retirement funds to grow. Even just, a short period of time of a few years could be dramatically different at retirement. So definitely starting when you're able to and not delaying too long on that is really important. Time is certainly your best friend for that.
Yeah, and I was just thinking there are a few different groups of folks who are very likely to be able to increase their retirement contributions and benefit from that a lot. And so those categories would be high earners. High earners often have the opportunity to not only max out their 401k, but also do a backdoor Roth IRA. So you'd want to talk with a financial planner before you just jump into doing a backdoor Roth to make sure that it's an option for you, make sure that you're not running into the pro rata rule, which could cost you more money in taxes, that sort of thing. Relief vets. So a lot of relief vets, especially when I first start working with a relief vet or some of the folks that I meet on student loan consults, a lot of them don't realize that they could open their own 401k. So you could open they call them solo 401k or individual 401k. You could open your own 401k, and then you'd have the same amount that you could contribute to retirement as if you were an employee, and then you can also contribute on the employer side. That's a huge opportunity to increase your retirement contributions. And then the third category is veterinarians who want to retire early. That's another huge opportunity. So, of course, folks who want to retire early are often optimizers. And so maybe they're already maxing out their 401k and already contributing to a Roth IRA or backdoor Roth as well. The opportunity in addition to that would be contributing to a brokerage account, and that kind of third bucket in what I'd call the 3-bucket retirement strategy. Contributing to a brokerage account, which is a non-retirement investment account, but you have full access to it at any time. Folks who want to retire early often want to have another account that they can contribute to, that they can access the money easily before they're age 59 and a half. So that's another huge opportunity to increase retirement contributions.
That leads us into number 4, which is use your money to build a life that you love. One of the first questions that we ask clients when we first meet them is, what do you love spending money on? At the end of the day, it's your money and it should be enjoyed. It shouldn't be something to fear or have guilt around. And let's be honest, veterinary medicine is a pretty emotionally demanding profession to start with. And so many vets, delay joy or have guilt around spending money, or maybe even just feel that they should be further along. And it just creates a source of stress and is not really something that you enjoy when you think about money, when you think about all of those things. And so definitely making sure that money is something that you can use to build a life that you love is something that you should be thinking about, and not feeling guilty around spending and all of those things.
I love asking clients that question because almost always we get a smile out of it when we ask, what do you love spending money on? It's really important to think about money as a tool to build the life you love, and make sure that you are using your money in a way that supports your values. And you can also look back at episode 74 where we talked about taking a sabbatical and planning for that. And so we do have some clients who are planning on taking a sabbatical, whether that's like a month or two or whether it's a longer sabbatical. And so that's another way to make sure that you're using your money to really build something that's in line with your values.
Yeah, and I know we're talking about 5 different things today, and you definitely don't need to do all of them, but some of them do kind of coincide with each other. And so I think this is a good example where we talk about, how do you use money to build a life you love? And a lot of it goes back to making sure that you are allocating money towards the things that you do enjoy. To Meredith's point, whether that's a sabbatical and getting a little bit of a time of rest, or maybe it's just an experience, or even some of those daily comforts that we're budgeting for, like our latte. You definitely don't have to do all of them, but some of them do complement very well. And I think budgeting is a really good way to make sure that you are using your money to build a life that you love.
And that brings us to number 5, which is hire a financial planner. Of course, we're both financial planners recording this podcast, so we're biased, but definitely it's something where we meet with veterinarians every day and we help them with their student loans, and we also help them with every aspect of their finances. Through financial planning, what we do is we help with investing, we help with retirement planning, cash flow analysis, so those things that we were just talking about with budgeting and making sure that what you have for a financial plan is really in line with your values. We help with financial goal setting and how to prioritize goals. You might have heard the expression financial order of operations of, okay, like, here's all the things I want to do. Tell me, what do I do with that next dollar? Joe, can you talk a little bit about what financial planning really is, at least like the way we do it versus what people think it is?
Definitely, financial planning is often misunderstood. I think a lot of folks think that it's for high net worth people or somebody that's close to retirement, or maybe it's only picking stocks, things like that. I feel like is a common misconception of what financial planning is. But in reality, financial planning is really looking at all of your goals and what you want to accomplish and how that fits into your overall financial plan. And so financial planning really makes things a lot more clear and kind of takes the mess out of a lot of, where your money's going and what you should be doing with your money. And so when you work with a financial planner, you would be able to have more insight into your daily spending, your monthly spending. Are you spending more than you make? If you are, where's that going? How do we make adjustments in order to get things back on track to meet your other financial goals that you might have? Financial planning is much more holistic around meeting those goals. And it's definitely not for just people that are in retirement or high net worth folks or anything like that. I would argue that everybody probably needs financial planning, because I hear a lot of times that they don't teach us this in vet school when I talk to veterinarians. And so financial planning fills that role.
Yeah, it's a common expression that we hear from veterinarians is they didn't teach us this in vet school. And that's absolutely right. They definitely, they didn't. Our idea is to make sure every aspect of your financial life is on track. When we think about what does a financial planner do, fundamentally, we answer financial questions. It's both your questions, but then also questions that you didn't even think about asking. What does a good or what does a great financial advisor or planner do for people, Joe?
They do look at things holistically. And so that would include everything from your student loan plan, your retirement accounts, your budgeting, insurance, investing, all of those sort of things. When you meet with a financial planner like Meredith or myself, there's a series of meetings that you would have on an ongoing basis. We would sit down and we would look at all of your cash flow and see where your money is coming in, where it's going out. We would go through and kind of see ways that we could optimize that to save for certain things that are financial goals of yours, or whether that's retirement, buying a house, things like that. Obviously, student loans falls into that as well. Many veterinarians do have student loans, and we talk about optimizing your student loan plan with number 2. And this is something that a financial planner should be able to help you with is sit down and look at your financial situation around your student loans and see how we can optimize that to fit into your overall plan as well. And then obviously retirement, how much to save for retirement, what types of plans are right for you, talking about backdoor Roth IRAs, things like that, and figuring out if that is something that you're eligible for, how to do that, and even managing that. It's kind of those core financial pieces that we put together into a holistic plan for you. And then just on top of that, any other financial scenarios or questions that are just top of mind, financial planners should be able to be available to help you, guide you through figuring those financial situations out as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's my thought too, is a financial planner should be there to make your life easier. And also from a student loan perspective, if you have student loans, make sure that your student loan plan is integrated with your overall financial plan. Because if you have student loans, a lot of the conventional advice that is out there, it may or may not apply to you. Especially with retirement planning, there are certain things that might need to be modified related to which accounts or which types of accounts you contribute to, things like that. And a lot of financial planners know very little about student loans. And so it's something important if you do have them. Yeah, everything from making sure your investments reflect your goals and when you're going to use those investments. And also from an investment standpoint, keeping costs as low as possible, keeping the fees low, keeping taxes low, so more of your money works for you. We act as fiduciaries, and so we have a legal obligation to put our clients' best interests first and make recommendations that support their goals. We don't sell expensive insurance policies that you don't need. Like, those are things that is something important to me that's not part of what we do. And then just making sure you don't make big mistakes with your finances as well. I often find that clients who meet with us, there's a psychological component to financial planning that is often overlooked as well. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, definitely. I know there's a financial mathematical answer to a lot of problems, or I shouldn't say problems, but situations. And there's also a emotional answer to those same situations as well. Those all have to be taken into account. And sometimes, it's not the mathematical situation or answer that is correct or the best fit. It might be the emotional one. And so I think that goes into having an ongoing relationship and meeting with your financial planner regularly. That way you get to kind of know each other, build that relationship, and can really factor all those things in when you're building your plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we tend to, of course, have a series of meetings with new financial planning clients and then often meet with them quarterly once we get through that initial series of meetings. I find that some folks, if they are coming in and they've worked with a financial planner before, it was like, oh, I met with them once a year and we just talked about the investments and that's it. And so we're definitely more comprehensive than that.
Yeah, definitely. And, when we talk about investments too, just in general, that obviously is something that we can help with as well as kind of an optional service to help manage investments. Veterinarians are saving for the tax bomb and things like that. They know they need to use a brokerage account, but don't necessarily know where to put the money outside of that. So definitely something that falls into the umbrella of what we could do as financial planners.
Yeah. Joe, can you talk a little bit about why veterinarian-specific financial planning is important? Because, of course, we both only work with veterinarians as financial planners. I'm a veterinarian. You're married to a vet. Why is that important?
Yeah, veterinarians definitely have a uniqueness to that profession. I think it's really important to work with somebody that understands that, because we see day in and day out with all of our different clients, the different ways that, for example, veterinarians get paid with a pro-sal model, or if you're doing relief work, and how much do you withhold for taxes, things like that, and thinking through like all of those things that are kind of specific to veterinarians, and even looking at veterinarians that are practice owners as well. I think there's just multiple different things that veterinarians face. And since we are only working with veterinarians as well, we also face those things alongside with our clients as we talk through those. When you're looking at all those different financial priorities, it can be very overwhelming. we understand that from the perspective of veterinarians, just because we work with veterinarians. Like Meredith said, I'm married to one, and Meredith obviously is a veterinarian. And so we definitely get those common feelings that veterinarians have. And I think it's really important to understand all of those things, just because it does matter for your financial plan.
Yeah, there are some very specific things that come up in the vet world. There's, of course, the expansion of 1099 income. When I first graduated back in 2008, there really weren't that many vets of course, relief vets existed, but there weren't as many vets who had 1099 income, self-employment income, where they had to think about things like, oh, how am I going to pay taxes from all these vaccine clinics that I'm doing, and it's not, when we think about professions across the board, that's not really that common. Like the average profession, they just have their salary and that's it. There's no production pay to worry about. There's no like, oh, I'm going to work ER relief shifts on the side and now I have to think about quarterly taxes. There are also some specific things with hospital groups where, for example, and Joe, at the beginning of the year, we're about to start seeing this. Unfortunately, there are folks who will get a refund from their 401k contributions for last year because for whatever reason, they're not allowed to contribute as much, being highly compensated employees, sometimes actually can't max out their 401k. And then it's like, okay, what do I do with this now? So that's something that is specific to the veterinary world that comes up as well.
Yeah, and I have a lot of friends that are veterinarians as well. My wife used to work at a 60-doctor practice. That was a very common thing where everyone was worried about that after the first of the year because they would get those refunds back and then they'd be like, I thought I was, saving for retirement in this account. And it can be very stressful and very overwhelming. I think another thing too that you kind of touched on, Meredith, was around like the production part of it. Even calculating that, because that can be so complicated, for veterinarians to figure out like how is their production calculated. And so that can be a really good thing to sit down with a vet specific financial planner like one of us and kind of look through that to see if we can't narrow down more specifically how that's calculated. And that's something that we're obviously pretty familiar with just through working with so many other clients that are in a similar boat.
Yeah, and that's something too when someone is thinking about switching roles and let's say they've got a couple of job offers on the table, because we're well versed in and have experience talking with veterinarians, and of course myself having experience in practice as well, just talking through, okay, is this a job offer that is fair? What are the questions I should ask? Should I possibly negotiate for more paid time off, things like that. And so that's something that often will come up in conversations with clients as well. Joe, you had touched on this before of just thinking about the pressures of the veterinary field. It's definitely helpful to work with someone who understands your pain points. And of course, burnout among veterinarians is something that is really common. It's a high pressure profession and it's worth it to work with a financial planner who understands the veterinary world and speaks your language.
Yeah. Working with somebody that's specifically for veterinarians can definitely help reduce stress and create clarity just because of understanding the world that veterinarians live in every day.
All right. Thanks so much for listening. Our mission is to help you take control of your finances and build a life you love. If you'd like to see how financial planning can support your goals, visit allvetfinancial.com and click the Book Now button to schedule a free intro call. Until next time, take care and continue your path to financial success. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered individualized financial advice. If a specific investment is mentioned, it should not be considered a recommendation or endorsement to buy or sell the investment. All investments involve risk. Past performance does not guarantee future results. You are encouraged to seek the advice of a financial professional before implementing any investment strategies discussed. Yay, compliance!